So My Hero Academia has a lot of interesting characters, right? But not all of them are in the My Hero 1 Justice series. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing another episode of the How They Can Work series. In this series, we look at characters that are not My Hero 1 Justice 2, and we try to break them down to create movesets for them, so hopefully one day they will become a playable character. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the High End Nomu Hood. And Hood was on my prediction list and wish list because Hood is a really powerful character, but he's also like extremely fast. Like he's really fast and he's really smart because he's a High End Nomu. But also, he's needed to kind of like tell the story if they do a third game, because the Endeavor versus High End Nomu fight was like really important. It was kind of like All Might versus Nomu, the USJ one. Like that was an important fight for All Might, and this was an important fight for Endeavor. So like I feel like he would have to come to the game, but like overall, I just really would like him to come to the game because he's just a really cool villain, really powerful, and just a really memorable villain. Like, I think he's really cool. Like, even though he was only in, like, the show for a couple of episodes, like, I think he's pretty cool. He could have, like, a really cool moveset, just a really powerful and fast one, and I think Hood would be a fantastic addition. So, in the My Hero 1's Justice series, each character usually has a normal attack, a red attack or an unblockable, a yellow attack or an armor attack, and they also have a quirk 1, a side quirk 1, a quirk 2, and a side quirk 2, and they also have a plus ultra level 1, 2, and 3. But in this series, we don't look at the normal attack because it's usually just the same punch or kick, and we don't look at the plus ultra level 3 because it's just 3 plus ultra level 1s combined into one big attack. So we only look at the unique things in this series. So yeah, that's how the series works. So let's just dive into this moveset. So Hood was a high-end Nomu that was a part of the League of Villains. What makes a high-end Nomu different from the average Nomu is their ability to speak and think for themselves, and that could be really important for like strategies because they can think of strategies on the fly rather than them being told like a specific command. And speaking can also have like good kind of like strategy behind it as well, communicating with teammates if they had them. But like Hood was like the kind of like first high-end Nomu, so we really didn't have a teammate. He was just out there destroying like a city and fighting like the number 1 hero and the number 2 hero. So it's like you can tell how powerful these guys are because obviously besides the intelligence, they can also be like extremely powerful like Hood was. And I just think Hood was like a really cool villain, and it'd be pretty nice to have like the normal kind of Nomu and the high-end Nomu in the game, because we have the Nomu from the USJ in the game, which was like the most memorable like average Nomu. But like imagine if we also had like the most memorable high-end Nomu as well. Like that'd be really cool to see, like having both variations of Nomu in the game. And yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So let's talk about his moveset. So for his quirk 1, I have it labeled High End Strike. This is where Hood would create 4 extra arms and would hit the opponent multiple times with his 6 arms, because he has the 4 extra ones on top of his, normal 2 arms. And at the end of the animation, the 4 extra arms would retract back into Hood, and the final punch would be an uppercut with one of his main arms that would hit the opponent upward a bit. So I got this idea from, obviously the Endeavor versus High End Nomu fight, and in that fight, Hood actually created like multiple arms from his body, and I thought that was really cool because that way you can have like a really cool kind of like rapid jab kind of animation, and it would do like a lot of damage because it's like 6 arms hitting you from a high-end Nomu. So that's where I got the idea for this quirk special, because we've seen him be able to create multiple arms from his body, and I think that'd be pretty cool to see in the game, especially because it's from a high-end Nomu, so it's going to be powerful, but it's also good for combos. So that's where this idea comes from. So for side quirk 1, I have it labeled Extending Slam. This is where Hood would extend his arm out and grab the opponent. The grab would be a medium ranged attack, and once it connects, Hood would increase his strength and lift his arm up and slam the opponent straight to the ground, which would cause a bounce. And if you did it in the air, he does the same attack. It can also be a red attack if you hold it. And basically, we've seen Hood kind of just grab like Endeavor during the fight and kind of just slam him around. And also, we've also seen him have the ability to kind of like extend his arm outward, kind of like Mr. Fantastic. Like he has like an elastic kind of like arm. So he has like arm control besides being able to create multiple arms and kind of making them more powerful. But we've also seen like High-End Nomu or Hood just kind of bulk up like multiple times, at least his arms. So, maybe it could do like a little extra damage than like the average kind of like side quirk 1, or it could just do the same amount of damage and just kind of be a cool animation. But I feel like because of like him bulking up in the animation, that would explain why there's a bounce, but it's also good for just combo potential as well. So I think that would be pretty cool to see because, we've seen him kind of just slam, Endeavor around multiple times with like an extended arm. So I feel like that would make sense. And for his quirk 2, I have it labeled Piercing Strike. This is where Hood would divide one of his arms into 6 spikes and would shoot them forward, and if it connects, it would pierce the opponent for a couple of seconds like All for One's quirk special. It would be a medium ranged attack, and it would do the same thing in the air, and because he only uses one of his arms to, kind of divide it into spikes and stuff, his other arm is free, so you can use his side quirk one and kind of continue the combo after you nailed this attack. So basically, for example, a combo could be his 3 normal attacks into his quirk 2, where he uses one of his arms to pierce the opponent with his 6 spikes, and with his spikes then you can kind of do his side quirk 1 and extend his other arm outward to grab the opponent out of the spikes, and he would make his arm go back to normal, the one that was spikes, and then he would kind of do a side quirk 1 where he would lift up the opponent and slam them to the ground, which would cause a bounce so you can continue the combo. So basically he's kind of alternating arms, so it's one arm has the spikes that trap the opponent, and then the other one could be the one where he kind of uses his side quirk 1 and grabs the opponent, lifts them up and slams them to the ground as the other one's going back to normal. So I just think it'd be pretty cool because, in this series we've seen Hood kind of rely on his arms, being able to change their shape and form while also being able to extend and make them stronger, and I think that would be pretty cool to see him kind of alternating between his main weapons, his arms, in his combo. So it's one arm is kind of got them trapped while the other one kind of reaches outward to continue the combo while the other one goes back to normal. I just think that would make sense because, Hood mainly relies on his arms. That's where his power is basically at, being able to extend and transform them. And I think that'd be pretty cool because, seeing the character kind of switch between his arms to continue the combo, kind of spike, grab, I think that'd be pretty cool. And that's where I got this idea from. And for his side quirk 2, I have it labeled Wild Animal. This is where Hood would use his boosters on his back to hover and would change his arms into wings so he can propel himself at high speeds for a couple of seconds. And if he hits and connects the attack with the opponent, he would bite their arm, which would hold them in place, and then he would change his wings back to arms and would grab the opponent and kind of grab their wrist located on their other arm, the one he's not biting, and he would release the other arm that he is biting and toss them into the ground, which would cause a ground splatter. While Hood is doing this attack, you can control his movement, and because he's moving at high speeds, he can't be damaged from the front of him. So basically, if the opponent wants to attack him, it has to be from the rear, and this move would be similar to Tetsu's quirk special, but what makes it different is with Tetsu, you can only control where he runs on the ground, but in the air you can't control where he moves. He only kind of just charges forward. But with Hood, when you're doing this attack on the ground and in the air, you can still control his movements no matter what, because Hood hovers with his boosters on his back and he has his wings to propel himself. So basically, you can kind of control him in the air and on the ground. So the move is good for mobility, but also good to kind of get in close and do some damage. And this attack would also be a reference to the series because during the fight with Endeavor said, Hood was starting to act like a wild animal because, the fight was starting to pick up and stuff, so he wasn't really thinking. He was just kind of going in and trying to do as much damage as possible, and he did bite Endeavor's fist. I never noticed that, the first time I watched the fight, but after rewatching it, you can clearly see him bite, Endeavor's fist while it's on fire, and that's when Endeavor's he's starting to act like a wild animal, so that's where this idea came from. And for his red attack, he would grab the opponent like how Nomu does, except he would then hover with his boosters and kind of drag the opponent across the ground, which would launch them into the air after the drag is finished. And for his yellow attack, he would power up one of his arms, which if you get hit by the wind around him while he's powering up, you get hit like how Muscular when he powers up, and you have that wind effect. If you get hit by that, you also kind of get stunned a bit, and then he would punch the opponent with that arm that he just powered up. So basically just kind of average red and yellow attacks, but very different because for Hood, having that red attack where he lifts you up and kind of drags you across the ground would make sense because of his boosters, and also it would just be a pretty cool red attack because it feels like it would do a lot of damage just by the animation. And same thing with the yellow attack because he powers up one of his arms, but it also has that muscular effect when he does it because if you get hit by the wind effect, you get stunned, so he can hit you with that powerful punch. I think these two would be perfect because it just describes Hood's power, and I think that'd be pretty cool to see in the game. And for his level 1, I have it where Hood would explode and release a Nomu from his body, and if the Nomu connects after, shooting out of Hood's body, it would do a full combo on the opponent, which would equal the damage of a level 1 attack. And basically while that's happening, Hood would regenerate his body, but would also heal some of his health back while doing it, like Overhaul version 2, he kind of heals some health back after doing one of his Plus Ultra animations. It would be the same thing with Hood, but you know, obviously he's regenerating his body after the explosion to release the Nomu, which would make sense on why he's actually healing his body and his health bar in the actual game. And I would also like to make this clear: when the body explodes at the beginning of the animation, it doesn't do any damage to him. It's just an animation, so Nomu would launch from his body. It's basically there for effects, but he would still heal some of his damage he already took, you know, before doing the level 1 animation. The explosion is just there just to release the Nomu. It's just an animation, so he doesn't take like a ton of damage for doing this level 1. He basically kind of gets more health back after doing the level 1 because he heals a bit, like Overhaul version 2. So that's where, you know, the idea comes from, because we've seen him released and have Nomu stored in his body. So I feel like it'd be pretty cool to include that in his moveset somehow, and the level 1 would be perfect because it makes sense, because, you know, it would also allow him to have his regeneration ability in the game as well. And we've seen Overhaul version 2 have a plus ultra attack where he does heal a bit, but that cost, you know, is the meter. Like, you have to spend meter to actually get some health back. So I feel like that's a way to make it balanced, just like Overhaul version 2, because you actually have to have meter. And also, you know, it'd be pretty cool to see just Hood just randomly explode on the field and shoot a Nomu out of his body, which would do the damage of a level 1. And also, for the Nomu, they already have an asset in the game of a Nomu that is unplayable, which I mentioned in the Kurogiri video. But, oh, sorry, spoiler for the Kurogiri video if you haven't seen that, but that Nomu isn't accurate to the one we see High End Nomu release, so maybe they could add like an exclusive new model to the game for him that was correct, like the correct type of Nomu, you know, that he shoots out of his body, or they could just add the other Nomu if they want, you know, it's completely fine. I'm pretty sure no one would complain, because it'd be a pretty cool level 1 to see in the game, just Hood randomly exploding and then like a Nomu flying out of him that would do like full damage, like a full level 1 damage, while he's like regenerating in the background, but also you see like the health bar going up. Like, I think that'd just be pretty cool, and just overall just a cool reference to the series. So yeah. And for his level 2, I have it where the animation would start with Hood grabbing the opponent by extending his arm out, and then he would launch them into the air. Then he would use his boosters and fly up to the opponent who is falling, and he would hit them at such high speeds. It would be a couple of lines just across the screen, like how it looked in the anime when he fought Endeavor in the air. And then he would make 4 arms, like basically kind of like make those 4 extra arms, and he would extend all 6 arms to punch the opponent to the ground, which would cause a debris explosion, and the animation would end with Hood doing that pose he did when he knocked out Endeavor during the fight. I think this would be a pretty cool level 2 animation, because it just shows the raw power of Hood and being able to like fly and also manipulate his like body to create extra limbs, but also his high speeds and stuff. Like, basically when he's flying super fast in the air, you only see lines like you did in the anime, and basically that kind of like holds the opponent in place while they're falling, and then he would just use his extra limbs to like launch the opponent into the ground with his like powerful, like, you know, multiple arms. Like, I think that'd be pretty cool, because again, it just shows Hood's raw power and speed, and I think that'd be a pretty cool level 2 animation to see. But that is my moveset for the High End Nomu Hood. Yeah, I tried to make this one feel like really powerful and kind of like fast, like you would feel like when you're fighting like a High End Nomu, but I try to make it balanced. Like, the healing only comes from the level 1, like Overhaul version 2. I think that's kind of balanced, because you have to use meter, so that means you have to actually, you know, take some damage. Also, you know, a lot of his attacks are kind of like close quarter kind of like, you know, attacks. Like, they're not projectiles, so he has to actually get in close, but he has like capabilities of doing that. He does have like some extended attacks where he like stretches out his arm, but like they're not as long as like a projectile would be, so I feel like that also makes it pretty balanced. But he also has abilities to close the distance, like his one where he can fly and you can control his movement and stuff. Like, overall, I just think he's pretty balanced and stuff, but I try to make him feel as powerful as possible, but, you know, keep him balanced to the point where he would be, you know, actually playable in the game. Like, you don't want to make him too overpowered, because then it wouldn't be fun to fight him. But overall, I think I did pretty well. There's a lot of references in the series from the fight, because, you know, that's the one thing we're kind of going off of, because he was only in one fight, so, you know, it was only a couple of episodes, but he did leave his mark for those couple of episodes. Like, he's a pretty cool villain. Like, you cannot deny he's a pretty cool villain. But overall, I would love to see Hood come to the game. He is on my wish list and my prediction list. Again, you know, because he's kind of needed to tell the story, and also he's just a cool villain, like just a really, really cool villain. I love his design, and I would love to see him come to the game, because, you know, we already have normal Nomu, so it'd be pretty cool to have like a High End Nomu as well. And also, if High End Nomu comes to the game, he has to have a level 2, because, you know, Nomu doesn't, so the high end has to have like a level 2, because I don't know why normal Nomu doesn't have a level 2. That always confused me, but hopefully if High End Nomu does come to the game, he hopefully will have a level 2 animation. So yeah, but overall that is my moveset for Hood. If you guys would like to see a specific character in this series, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be happy to try to create a moveset for that character. And if you guys did enjoy, please like and subscribe, that would be amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.